Let's bring in Mr. Hack. Oh, there he is. What's up, man?
Just looking at the camera part is throwing me off.
Oh, yeah? Should we dance for you?
No.
How are you?
Oh, not too bad. How you doing?
Not too bad. So for the uninitiated and people who don't know who you are or what any of this is, could you introduce yourself?
Go by the name of 2BitHack. Been making resin bootlegs for longer than I can remember, 10, 15, 11 years, something like that, 12 years.
11 years. Copyright Magoo.
Yep.
So you were one of the, I think one of the earliest. I'm just trying to think, like, I was collecting the Sucklord stuff.
Well, when did Suck Volume 1 get filmed?
Was that the first year I met you? You made the little Suckle figure?
Yep, the bigger scale one.
What year was that? I think we'd put a year on this thing, but Ian, what year was volume 2, Jakey? 2013. So this was 2012.
Yeah,
that's when I first met you.
Yep.
And you had made, it was that little, like, it was the, wasn't it like the Cause Sucklord peg?
Yep.
And I was like, who is this dude? This rip-off artist. I was like, how dare you rip off the Sucklord? So the biggest rip-off artist of them all. So hypocritical. So how did this start for you? Like, how did you become like you already had the name 2BitHack when I met you. Let's talk about the name first.
Okay.
Right. How did you come up with 2BitHack? I
wanted it so, like, it's like somebody says, "Oh, what 2BitHack made this?" Well, I did.
I often wonder if the Sucklord had not been called the Sucklord and had his quality been, an integral part of like what he did, whether the whole tenor of the scene, would have been different, because you were kind of the first one to adopt the, that he had his self-deprecating name, but you were the first one also to follow in the footsteps of a self-deprecating name. And then,
because it's nothing's gonna ever look factory made. Not like factory made is the best made, but my stuff doesn't look anything like it used to. So I think at the time it was kind of more fitting.
Right. I mean, here we're in the presence of DKE Toys, who's manning the booth there, and you just go down the line, the dollar slice bootlegs, and I can't even think. There's other dozen artists that have these kind of like self-deprecating names, and I think, what if like the Sucklord, instead of being the Sucklord, was like the
just a
finest
bad role model.
Bad role model. So did you catch a lot of grief in the beginning when you started?
Oh, yeah. Tons and tons.
Can you talk about that?
Just like if I'd post something anywhere, everybody would tell me to freaking go screw myself and stop being ripping off. It's like, well, this thing that I just posted isn't a rip off of anybody. It's just kind of similar style, similar medium.
And how long did it take before people were accepting and realized that, like, hey, like there's other people in this game? Like,
probably when Pete Killer kind of started out more, getting more and around, and other people started popping up. I either focus shifted off of me, or it was just okay now.
Because Peter got a lot of shit also.
Yeah.
I mean, a ton. And I mean, to the point where people would like approach me and was like, what do you think of this guy? Like, who does he think he is? Like, this usurper coming to like destroy everybody. Wow. So what were you doing at the time? I mean, have you always been into art and
Um,
customizing?
yeah,
How
I've
did it
kind of
happen for
always
you?
done that. Two figures, vehicles, anything.
Mhm,
I was kind of out of the doing that kind of stuff. I was doing more like car modification stuff, and
mhm,
then kind of fell back into doing like custom toys when Dunnies kind of started coming out. I
mhm,
was doing some of those, and then one of the guys in town in San Diego where I live was doing resin stuff, and I kind of saw him do some stuff, and I was like, well, I need some parts for something that I want to make, but they don't exist, so I'd have to make them myself, but I want them out of a clear material. So that's when I taught myself how to cast resin to make stuff. And then I was like, well, why am I going to customize somebody else's something? Why don't I just make my own stuff?
mhm. And what's funny is that when I first met you, it was Morgan that told me, he's like, go talk to that guy with the box and the hat over there. Like, he's got a, bootleg figure of my stuff. And he's the one
Mhm.
who sent me over to go buy one from you. And what's interesting to me is that he was not, at least at that point, like he was not threatened by you. But I remember the earliest conversations, about killer bootlegs was like, man, and this probably predated you. Maybe he'd come around by that time, but he's like, how am I supposed to think about these other people? But by that time, I think because Kill had made his Suck Damn It figure, that was his figure with the helmet on it. And
Mhm.
then maybe it was your chill disposition, like it just didn't offend anybody. At least it didn't
Uh,
offend the Suck Lord.
I mean, I can't speak
I,
for him, but
I'm going to tell you, I've done a lot of these interviews. I don't know how many we're on, like the 50th interview so far, and that was the best answer to any question I've ever asked. It was just like,
I'm very non-confrontational. I don't know.
wow. So
But
then, where did it go from there? When did it start becoming like a thing?
uh, probably when I started actually selling more stuff rather than just like at conventions, putting stuff
Mhm,
on sites and selling that kind of stuff, doing through conventions through booths rather than just walking around selling
mhm.
them out of a box.
But you still walk around and sell them out of a box. Like
Oh yeah, because
that's like the one of the most amazing things. It's like, it's like there's 2BitHack and he's walking around. He's got his like little like steel case and he's just walking around, and then people like just like, hey dude, and they already know like there's cool shit in the box.
you got to
That's-
pay for your entrance fee somehow.
and then he just like sits down on the ground, opens the box, and people like, and it quite often it's like in front of our booth, and I'm like, hey, fuck you, I paid for this booth.
Well, because that's where everybody's going to look for that stuff.
So uh growing up, were you always interested in art?
I don't necessarily know if I was just interested in art. Just
Mhm.
I always kind of made stuff.
Mm. So and like what did you start making and at what age?
Sheesh. Maybe 13 or 14.
Uh-huh.
Just like you'd get model kits or action figure, and you'd change the way you looked just because you wanted to, or you couldn't find this one, so you made the one that you couldn't find out of ones you had,
Right.
kind of stuff. And I probably get it a lot from my mom because like we had Star Wars play sets that were like a copy paper ream box. You'd pull the top off and the front flap would fold down, and okay, this was Hoth and it was filled with cotton balls, and then you had these like clothesline pegs that painted white as stormtroopers
Right.
for stuff like that.
And then from there was, the customizer was born.
Somewhat. I've always taken stuff apart to see how it works and Most of the times it goes back together the way it came apart.
Yeah. And then your card backs are also very different from other people. Can you talk about that process?
Um, I do almost all the work on all of them, art wise. I've had a few where some people where I just couldn't Photoshop at all, so I would sit there over the guy's shoulder. It's like, okay, I want this like this over there, change that, do that.
Mhm.
And then I'll just basically what I do is I have them printed out at Kinko's. I take those copies and then I take that copy and I laminate it onto chipboard.
Mhm.
And then I'll take, the front side's laminated on one, the back side's laminated on another, and then I'll laminate those two together and then square it all down to the size I want it to be.
Mm. And then I think the earliest line of figures that you did that I remember, what was the line with uh I remember you had done like the Cantina Mariachi Band for
The
Us,
Empire Loca essay,
Empire Loca essay, right? And that was
that one,
look at that.
it's over there.
Yes, indeed. What is that underneath
That's a check
it? From who?
from you.
you you have a check on the
Yes,
wall
but I have
from
all the numbers and everything covered over.
what? Why do you have a check from me on your
Because
wall?
that was for when we did those figures.
And did you deposit the check?
Oh yeah.
So that's a photocopy?
No, that's the check, but you can
Oh, you
deposit
got
mobile.
ah. So that what date was that check?
11/9/14.
Wow. So that's when you made it?
Uh, I think that was when we
No,
first started stuff.
I don't
Yeah.
mean I don't mean that. I mean like that's when
Oh,
like
yeah, the figure. Yes.
no, I mean that's when you made it.
Oh, yes.
You were earning a living at making resin figures.
This guy.
Wow. You have the check on your wall. That's amazing. Or maybe very sad. I don't know. Oh,
I've one from John Maris above it.
mhm. Who's that?
Maramis.
John Mermis.
Yes.
That's not NFT. That's NTF. That's where I get it from. The Necessaries Toys Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah. What'd you do for him?
I sold him a Banksy bootleg.
Wow. Very cool. And so you saved that check too.
Yep. Well,
Right.
and the note that came with it because he physically mailed me a check.
Us old people, we do that from time to time.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day. Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna tell him about that.
But I remember buying stuff off of eBay and you had to send a money order because PayPal didn't exist.
Right. Those are crazy times. There was another service before PayPal. It was called iEscrow.
Hmm.
And if you didn't trust the seller, you could pay with a credit card. You could pay the money to escrow. They would charge you 10% for this. And then you would get the item. And then you would say you got the item, and then they would release the funds out of escrow
Hmm.
to the seller. And a lot of people just use this not because of the escrow service, but really just because they could pay with a credit card and didn't have to like wait. So if you just had more money than time, you could.
Mhm.
But then PayPal came along and that just went away. Uh-oh, someone's getting chicken burger
Now we've
disco
got
getting
USA.
flashbacks. So you've always been customizing. So how did that help the rest of your life in a way? I mean, if you didn't start making bootlegs until you're customizing stuff, and then 2012, or so is like the first piece.
Mhm.
What's happening in the rest of your life?
Um, I would say that if I hadn't customized things, I wouldn't be where I was today. Just
Hmm.
because like I was in kind of custom car world, and basically everybody that I still know I met through there.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't be in the friend group or whatever you want to call it where I am today. Um, I work on cars all day, pretty much every day, so that's definitely changed. On the toy side, I kind of think I'm going a little bit of the janky way because I haven't put anything out in a while. Um, but I have been doing a lot of casting for just other people.
Right.
Enough scarcity.
Yeah.
So, but it seems to me like the customizing cars does, I mean, those are similar skills to making figures, right?
There is a lot of similarities, and or you can cross over casting stuff into car stuff because I've made a lot of stuff for cars that's cast resin, and things that I've used to clean up figures I've used on car stuff. I just got a third brake light for, it's a very specific year, only had it 1 year, and someone had spray painted all over it, and I, via what I've learned from fixing toys and making toys, able to strip it all off and clean it all up to where it looks brand new.
Wow. And this, you're just talking about like a plastic,
Yeah,
a clear
the
plastic piece,
the lens, yes.
and you can't find that, like the part doesn't exist anymore.
Well, it's been discontinued, and it was only offered on 1 year of the production of the 11-year span of the vehicle.
Wow. And so then in order to get one, you have to just pay through the nose on eBay.
Pretty
Like, so, and no one else is like casting that
No.
stuff, or
There's not that big of a market for it, but it was enough to where it's like, well, I found this one and I can clean it up, so I'm gonna go with that one.
wow. That must be a crazy business if like you can just walk around a car lot or junkyard lot and just find pieces like that. I'm sure there's people who have that kind of encyclopedic
Mhm.
knowledge. Can you do that? Can you walk by and go, oh, that's a good piece?
Not as good as some people, but I'm pretty decent at it on some of the stuff.
And so what kind of work are you doing on cars, and how long have you been doing that?
Paintless dent removal, mobile paintless dent removal. So like you go to the mall and you park whatever, and the jerk next to you comes to their car and they open their door, they smash it into your car. Well,
Mhm.
I can get that dent out of the door without having to sand it and fill it and paint it, just by working the metal back and preserving the factory paint.
Wow. How does the paint not crack? Like you using like magnets or whatever and like pulling it
No, you're
out?
basically physically pushing the metal back, but you're moving it at such a slow incremental rate
Uh-huh.
that you're not causing a shock to the paint surface.
How slow are you doing?
Um, I mean, I'm way faster than when I started doing it. I could take probably a dent that's about an inch around in 5 to 10 minutes. But it's not. You got to think of how fast it took to create that dent. It was like
Right.
a second.
Uh-huh.
So when you're working it back up, the metal wants to go back most of the
Right.
time. So you can get it back up there, and it's just you got to release the pressure off of it. Because if you try to go up too fast or too much in one spot, you're going to poke it or you're going to crack the paint.
I still don't understand, like conceptually, like what are you doing? You're just like massaging the metal, like
Yes,
with what? Like a tool or
metal rods that all slide in through the window openings or
Mhm.
any plug openings, like for your in the door jambs or up through drain holes through the bottom. Pull a taillight out, pull a bumper off if I have to get into where through openings without having to drill a hole.
That's insane. And then does it always work, or just sometimes you get a dent or a crack?
It doesn't always work because sometimes the metal is stretched or you just can't get to areas via just the way the car is constructed. I've been doing it since 1998.
Oh wow. Um, so I think that
Well, I fixed
this
George's car.
did you really?
Yeah.
How was
His
that? How did that go?
Someone kicked it
Yeah.
in the
So,
3D retro parking lot.
are you serious? Who would do that?
Yes. I don't know, some jackass.
Wow. Okay, so you're not filling, sanding, and painting. You're just pulling the metal,
Push the metal back.
push the metal back from behind.
Yep.
That's insane. But then if you're not doing all that work, I mean, the thing that I always remember about you is like your fingers.
Yeah, well, my hand is up in the wheel well
Yeah.
and on the tire, and my knees on the ground, and my face is on the side of the car.
Uh-huh.
That's where you get.
I just remember like your fingers. I'm
this.
like, dude, and you're like,
I have this.
what is that? This
Well,
black-
about a month ago, I smashed my thumb
Oh no.
right here between a car, sheet metal with a hammer,
Huh.
and it basically did like a blood blister under the nail.
Yeah.
So when it grew out, it's basically a big old split. So I took a piece of carbon fiber and laid it over it, so I basically don't have a big nail edge flapping in the wind, waiting to
Put
get ripped off.
You put carbon fiber on your nail.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Like Kylo Ren.
Did you hear what
Actual,
Janky said? It's like Kylo Ren.
yeah, on his face, like right here, whatever.
Wow, that's amazing.
Bootleg fingernail.
Bootleg
It's clear resin.
That's I thought you were just making a fashion statement.
It keeps the front half of my thumb on. And that's why I have longer nails. When you're sticking your hand down into like the innards of cars, there's sheet metal in there that's not beveled or anything. It's just stamp cut and just a sharp edge right there.
So what do you do?
Well, I have my nails a little longer because when I stick my finger in there, if you basically stick it on an X-Acto blade, you're going to slice up the front. So you hit your nail before you hit your fingertip.
That doesn't sound like wow. So you're using your fingernails, and then what after you've just cracked your fingernail enough times, then you just
Carbon fiber.
get cut?
Yeah.
Are there gloves for this kind of thing?
Yes, but when you have learned without gloves and then you put a glove on, everything's different. So I really hate wearing gloves. And before they got some where you could use it with a cell phone, you have to take the glove off, and it's just a hassle.
Got it. So, I mean, so you're obviously like a creative person. You're an artist. You have a brand. You make these figures. I guess, would you be doing something else if not making figures? I mean, like
Yes, because I used to do this.
I see. So you always had a creative outlet, customizing something.
Yeah.
And so when was the first time that you stumbled upon an actual resin toy or saw someone doing resin toys?
Probably 2009.
Yeah, what was that?
Artist by the name of Dodger that's in San Diego, was in San Diego, that was doing like resin matte L's. I think he did Huck the Skullhead Dunny out of resin. And that's kind of where I first saw people doing resin stuff, because I was still in the the custom end of the world of toys instead of the bootleg side.
And then when did it become an action? How did that turn into an action figure for you?
Well, I've always loved 3 3/4 action figures, and I was like customizing stuff, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna. Why do I need to pay for someone else's platform to make a custom of that's not the figure? And then it's like, well, hey, what about all the figures as a kid that you made that were of other things that didn't exist? We'll just do that.
Got it. The one line that I remember that I mean, I think it's still ongoing. I think that, and the reason it comes to mind is because I always had people asking me to get them from you out of your case at Comic-Con. And that was like the Spaceballs figures. Have you finished that line? Because that line seemed to go on for a long time.
I haven't, because I still want to make Pizza the Hut and Vinny. And honestly, I'm running out of people from that movie. I can make Colonel Sanders and President Scrooge, but there's mainly I want to have Pizza the Hut and Vinny, just so there's, you know, the bad guys to go with the other set of bad guys.
How many have you done in the line so far?
Well, I've done Vespa, her luggage, her hair dryer, Dot, Barf, Lone Star, Darth Helmet, Yoda or Yogurt, sorry, and the T-shirt, the Spaceballs, the T-shirt.
Right. That's a pretty intense line there. Oh, and don't forget
the asshole, the radar tech, and the, I don't know, more stormtrooper-esque assholes that were out combing the desert,
right,
with home.
And what Jenky just reminded me of, like what I saw you building online, was your own rotomold machine, so that you could cast that. Now that, like, is a level of accomplishment, like, that's insane. And that's in one piece that came out of a mold, and it's hollow.
Yeah, and it's hollow
Resin. Insane. And I remember how big that machine
was.
was.
Sections that fit onto it. I can show you the machine.
Yeah, let's see the machine. Is this your workshop here?
Yeah, covered in crap.
Wow. This is the workshop right here.
This is the workshop / toy room, storage, mess of stuff everywhere. Can't walk. Wow.
And so what's your family think of all of this?
Oh, they hate this room. No, my wife doesn't care for it because some of her stuff is in here and she can't get to any of it because my stuff's in the way. My kids love it because this is where I'm at, where they break something and then they bring it to me to fix it.
Wow. And how old are your kids now?
9 and a half, because he corrected somebody yesterday, and nearly 18.
That was insane. 18 is your daughter?
Yep. I had to drop work at 1.
I remember when, like, she was at our house, like,
yeah.
How long ago was that? 18, like she was like 6, 7, 8,
10,
like it was
10 or 11 years ago.
10. That was insane. Wow. I feel old.
Yeah, me too.
You're not very comforting.
Well, you're not that old. I don't know how old you are, but you're not that old.
Thank you. So what's next? What's the future for 2BitHack?
I don't know. Probably continue going the way I'm going. Put stuff out every once in a while. I have some stuff that I'm working on, but I take so long to find the parts that I want that sometimes the whole idea has passed or somebody else did it already. Trying to stay away from the what's the latest meme craze.
Right. But did you ever think that when you were younger that you would grow up and you would be like an artist with like a name and that everyone in the scene would know who you are?
No.
Pretty cool, huh?
Sometimes it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
And the other times?
It can get awkward.
Oh man. Well, yeah. All right, dude. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
Not a problem. I appreciate you doing everything you do.
Thank you for being a part of this. Keep up the good work. And we hope to see you soon.
Will do. I still have some stuff I need to drop off to you.
Oh yeah?
Some garbage pail CDs and a
Oh
book,
yeah. That book.
poster, and some stuff.
Nice. Well, one day the world will stop melting and I will see you again.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, dude. Thank you again.
No problem. Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Have a good rest of your con.